I'm Andrea Mitchell in Washington. Newly released emails are raising questions about whether aides to New Jersey Governor Christie played politics by deliberately creating a huge traffic jam on the New Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge just to punish a local Democratic mayor who chose not to endorse the governor's re-election. If that sounds complicated, it's politics, Jersey style. An email sent in August by Christie's Deputy Chief of Staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, to the governor's friend and appointee to the agency that runs the bridge says, time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee. That's the suburb closest to the bridge. The reply from the governor's appointee to the Port Authority, got it. The messages are the latest in a controversy that's created a huge traffic backup, raising questions about Christie's involvement possibly in something that he denied last month.
It's not that big a deal. Just because press runs around and writes about it both here and nationally, I know why that is, and so do you. Let's not pretend that it's because of the gravity of the issue. It's because I am a national figure, and anything like this will be written about a lot.
Well, that's true for sure. We reached out again today to the governor and his aides for comment. They all have not replied. Joining me now for our daily fix, Cilliza, MSNBC contributor and managing editor of postpolitics.com, NBC Capitol Hill correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, and MSNBC's Steve Kornacki, host of Up Every Weekend Morning, and a longtime observer of New Jersey politics. Steve, let me start with you, first of all, because you have followed New Jersey politics. You've followed Christie up close and personal. What is the there behind Bridgegate? Is this potentially character revealing about Christie, a potential national candidate?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's what's already come out, I think, all raises, enough questions. But I think the question of the moment right now is what's next. And I should just point out quickly that the Christie ally you're talking about at the Port Authority is somebody who, in a sort of a former life, ran a nonpartisan political news site in New Jersey. He was my employer. I worked for him. That was many years ago, but I just want to make sure I get that out there. That man is scheduled right now to testify before a state assembly committee. He's been subpoenaed to testify tomorrow. So I think there's a lot of questions about what exactly he's going to say there. These are all emails, text, correspondences that he had that were subpoenaed. That's what's being released. That's what's all out there today. So the question, first of all, at the moment, is what's going to happen when he appears before that committee. The second question now is that this has reached into the governor's office. You now have a deputy chief of staff, Bridget Kelly, as you say, who is in these correspondence, who is clearly fully aware of what's going on. I would imagine she's going to be tossed overboard pretty quickly by the governor's office, and there's going to be an attempt here to say this was something the governor himself had no knowledge of. This is something she did, and they're going to try to sort of use her as the fall guy, fall woman, whatever you want to say. But the question then, if that happens, the question is what does she say, and are there any documents, any materials that she might then produce that might be subpoenaed? So can this go further into the governor's office? That's the next question that needs to be answered here.
Kelly O'Donnell, you were with Christie on election night. You've seen all of his skills as a politician. Tell me about how he reacts in circumstances such as this.
Well, I think the soundbite that you played there, that clip where he was describing this event and why it's being covered so much, is illustrative. The difference now is if, in fact, Christie had any knowledge, and is there anything that would suggest that? No evidence so far. But the fact that someone so close to him is a part of these emails, which we should say were on personal accounts, not their formal office accounts as employees of the government of New Jersey, that distinction is one that may not matter much in the big scale, but they were not doing it on their office computers, so to speak. What will Christie do? He has denied that there was any political motivation. Now he's going to have to address this again. They have not responded today. I also made the rounds trying to get some sort of comment from the office. They've not done so yet. They will have to address this, and it will have to be something where Christie answers the larger question. As he pointed out, the specifics of the bridge and the local community, which matter a great deal there, may not be as important nationally as the suggestion, would there be people working with him, close aides, who might use the tools of government to create some kind of a political payback for someone who didn't support them. That's a much more glaring problem if that has evidence to support it. That does speak to character, that does speak to style. And Christie needs to distance himself from that kind of accusation quickly and to try to get this behind him if he can do that. Now, the investigation that's going on will certainly shed more light in the days to come, but to have it reach, even in just a matter of a few words in emails to the governor's office, does bring this to another level. It also raises the question that in the times we live in, email is always the thing that seems to be a window into people's thoughts and sometimes their conduct that they may not want the public to see, and yet emails somehow always come out. So for Chris Christie, this will be a challenge.
And Chris, Cilliza, it matters because Chris Christie is a national figure.
Oh, yeah, and look, Andrea, I recall vividly you asking myself and Amy Walter about this a few weeks ago and me saying, look, I don't think it's an issue in 2016. I would say, and Steve made this point and Kelly echoed it, now that it is the deputy chief of staff in the governor's office, it's a different thing now. You can no longer dismiss it as, these are some Port Authority guys, yeah, they're connected to me, but you know, this really didn't have anything to do with me. This is now in his office, and it's the kind of politics that I think you don't want to see played. You know, traffic's going to get worse in Fort Lee. That line in the email is going to sort of linger throughout, I think, the next couple of weeks and maybe even months. And I know they're not saying anything right now, but I think the Christie people now understand this can no longer be sort of laughed off as he once did or dismissed as he did in that clip you played. This is something he now has to address.
And Andrea, remember his inaugural is coming up in a couple of weeks, all the celebration about Chris Christie's second term. So they have a short window here to respond. They maybe don't have to do it today, but they've got to get a plan of action going quickly.
Well, briefly, Steve Kornacki, one of the larger narratives of Chris Christie is, can he play in Republican politics in the Midwest, in Iowa, in New Hampshire? And that New Jersey and sort of rough and tumble kind of politics that you covered so ably in New Jersey is part of the downside in Republican primaries, right?
Well, it's funny because the Jersey image and the Jersey style cuts both ways. I know this well. Somebody who has a bit of a background there, going out nationally and talking to people. Christie there's sort of two conflicting images that come to people's mind when you say, you know, the Jersey way, Jersey style. Christie's used the positive one, this sort of blunt, unvarnished, plain-spoken. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell it like it is. That's how Christie sort of played up his Jersey roots, and I think that sort of Jersey image does have resonance nationally. The problem is there's this other side of New Jersey as this sort of, you know, seedy den of political corruption and malfeasance and this sort of thing. And this just reinforces that sort of worst, most negative stereotype of you know, the Jersey style, the Jersey way. And I see Chris Christie, at least before this, he would go out to Iowa, he would go out to those places, and he'd play it up. He'd be like, hey, I'm going to give it to you Jersey style right now. And the audiences would kind of like it. They'd eat it up. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that after this.
Thanks to you, Steve and Kelly and Chris.